Here's the thing, I know smart mugs are way more expensive than normal mugs. This one I got from Glowstone is on their website for £129. But before you go clicking off this video thinking this is not for you, let me explain a little gastroscience behind coffee and heat. As you can see, this isn't my normal background. I moved back to the UK recently to grow my coffee business, and I'm really excited to share more with you about running a roastery cafe, and hopefully I'll be able to share some of my coffee with you lovely people soon. Subscribe if you want to be part of that journey with me. Before I talk about smart mugs and whether or not you might want to get one, I need to talk a little bit about temperature. I really didn't know all that much about how temperature affected coffee until I visited a little shop in Tokyo called Leaves Coffee Roasters. There I had a little tasting set that had a thermometer that read the temperature of the espresso, and it had tasting notes throughout the cooling process. I'm the type of person who usually wolfs down a cup of coffee within a minute or two. Anybody else impatient like me? But I put myself through the torture of waiting for the espresso to cool down, and man, the flavors changed a lot. With extractions taking place at around 92 degrees C plus or minus a few, and the espresso in the cup ending up at around 85 degrees depending on whether you warmed the cup or not, you're not really going to be tasting that much of the espresso's unique flavor at this temperature. Aroma and taste perception is highly muted above 75 degrees C, and so most of the flavors you'll be getting will be generic coffee and roastiness. If you wait until the temperature cools down to around 65 degrees C, you'll get a lot more of those subtle, interesting flavors coming through. This is because of the release of vapors at this temperature which tickle your olfactory senses. Around 55 degrees C is where bitterness is the most perceptible. After this point, acidity increases gradually down to room temperature where it is the most pronounced. So what does this have to do with smart mugs like this one? Well, a smart mug keeps your coffee idle at around 64 degrees C, which is the ideal temperature for tasting the most interesting flavors of coffee. So rather than just being a point of preference, serving coffee at scaldingly hot temperatures is objectively wrong, at least when it comes to flavor and texture. We'll see how I feel about that later in the British winter. I've had this Glowstone mug for about a month now, and I usually use it for my after lunch lattes, which I usually drink while I'm doing my work. Before I had this smart mug, my latte would usually go cold while I was working, and it just wouldn't be as pleasant to drink. The battery on it lasts a pretty long time, but it depends on the temperature around, so if you're just using it in your house like I was, it lasts around 2 to 3 hours, which I thought was pretty good. I also took it on a walk one night with some hot chocolate in it, and it lasted for the whole walk, which was around 30 or 40 minutes. It has a wireless charging port, so you don't need batteries, and you don't need to remember to plug it in like your phone. You just wash it up and just make sure to remember to sit it on the charger, and it'll be ready to go next time you need it. It does take a few hours to charge, so I only really used it once or twice a day, but since I don't usually drink that much coffee anyway, this was more than enough for me. One of the reasons I actually really like this mug is the material design. It actually uses bone china rather than one of those plasticky feeling fake ceramic coatings that other smart mugs use. I've resisted getting thermos or other travel mugs because they usually use a material that affects the flavor of the coffee. But bone china has been used for centuries because it's objectively one of the best ways to drink hot drinks. The only real complaint I would have about this is that the shape is not particularly conducive to latte art. I know it's a really small thing, but latte art is one of my favorite things about having a home espresso setup. But it will be really good for me to practice pouring into a narrow vessel because we will be serving in takeaway cups when we start the cafe. So a smart mug is a nice to have, but there's more to it than just keeping your coffee hot. But I want to know what you think about smart mugs. Do you own one, or have you been thinking about getting one? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end, you wonderfully overcaffeinated people, and I will see you on the next one.